another episode of EngageCast. Today we are joined by Divya Dikshit from ALTBalaji. Divya is the Senior Vice President and Head of Marketing at ALTBalaji, and she has over 20 years of experience in marketing. Divya has also formerly served as the Vice President of Marketing at Z5. Now a little bit about ALTBalaji. It is the country's first large OTT platform with only original content which is tailor-made for Indian preferences. It is aimed at the urban masses that consumes both popular foreign and Indian shows online. Besides its popularity in the metros, over 80% of its traffic is coming from Tier 1 and Tier 2 towns. Within 6 months of launch, ALTBalaji was ranked among the top 3 revenue grossing video streams in the country. Few more statistics, over 4 billion minutes of video have been consumed until 20th of November 2019, which is quite impressive. Looking at all of this, and given Divya's experience, she makes for a perfect candidate to help us understand the state of OTT in India right now. Without further ado, welcome Divya to another episode of EngageCast. So happy that you agreed to do this for us and lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm really, really happy to be here. By the way.
Excellent. So Divya, help us, take us through a day in the life of Divya Dikshit. What is happening right now?
Okay, so I wish I could say, my days are calm, sorted, planned, because it all sounds very nice. Unfortunately, I can't because, OTT and media, these are two potent chaos creating platforms coming together. So I would say, yes, my day typically starts at about 6:30 in the morning when I wake up, have a cup of coffee, and I start scrolling through my emails, WhatsApp messages, responding to crises which might have happened overnight while I was asleep, and trying to see whatever that I can salvage, of course. Typically, then it moves into reaching office and then moving into multiple meetings that we do. Now those meetings can literally range away from my own team to the content meetings, to the product meetings, to the analytics meetings. So I not only handle marketing, I also handle marketing plus direct subs, revenue plus analytics. So it's a large portfolio that consumes a lot of my time understanding what my team is up to, finding solutions along with them. Because if you look at it, my job is also to basically ensure that my team is able to do their job, right? And then, of course, fighting crisis. And typically, we, on an average, Alt is now launching almost 3 shows a month. So you're forever at any given point of time. You're also working on what is it that you're getting as an ROI. You're also working on what is the emphasis of the digital marketing push. You're also working on the consumer behavior. You're also working on the UX of the app, right? Because of course, experience is involved in it. And yes, you could say the work is never ending. So I would love to say I go home at 8 o'clock, spend time with my daughter, because it all sounds very nice and fairy tale-ish, but it doesn't really happen. So yeah, I reach home and then I am trying to, sort of juggle as a working mom. Sometime with my daughter, sometime with my dog, sometime with my husband, and of course, keep abreast of what's happening in the office as well. Yes, that's how typically chaotic our lives are. Not call it Divya Dikshit's life. I would call it ALTBalaji's life, typically in a day is because you're forever also fighting crisis. See, media is also a very sensitive platform because you're putting out things that people are going to be very engaged in. You understand what I'm saying? It's not money and it's not Credo. That is going to cost you this much and you have to buy it. This is a product in which you're very aggressively engaged. So you have to work with a global consumer feedback all the time, and which makes it chaotic, but it also makes it all more fun. Right. And I don't think I would like to do it. So that's the day in my life.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for the candidness with which you have replied, and it's really impressive that you're juggling 2 roles at once. That of course, the head of marketing at Alt, and of course being a mother, which is probably the most important one. Very impressive.
Yes, absolutely.
And, and of course, I just found out that you had a launch today. So I guess that the 3 launches a month, that's going to be absolutely frantic at the office right now. Really impressive.
Thank you.
So getting into a bit about getting into ALTBalaji business, a little bit about how the brand is working right now, how the platform is performing right now. The first question that I wanted to ask you is to understand the brand's target audience. From what I understand, you guys have about a massive user base of about 23 million people right now. Correct me if I am wrong, but 23 million is a sizable number. And who is this average ALTBalaji consumer? Do help us understand a little bit about this ALTBalaji consumer, the average guy.
Yeah, sure. So let me say this, that the number that you have said, we're actually much more than that. And this is a cumulative number from the day of the launch. So from the inception of the app till now, it's almost 30 million consumer base. That's part one. Part two is the fact that how do I describe an average consumer? There's no average consumer, because ALTBalaji typically believes in the fact that we will serve something for everybody, and that's the beauty of the digital, right? So we have youth shows, we have drama shows, we have thrillers, we have comedies, we have horror, and then we have, of course, got sensual. Yes, we do not serve to kids, and that's a conscious call that we have taken, because we really believe that kids should not be exposed to this kind of a content.
Sure.
So we have a kids section earlier, but then as we evolved and we realized that it's not correct, we completely removed kids as a section. So we do not cater to kids other than kids, and this is what our app also says, that we are meant for 18 plus. So like I said, a typical average consumer would be a Bharat consumer. We also, of course, have Netflixians, so who watches for Aparan, who watches for TJIDF, who watches for Test Case, who watches for Bose, who watches for Mom, who watches for Verdict, who watches for Kehne Ko Hum Safar Hai. So anybody and everybody above 18 years of age.
So all of the shows that you just described.
So like I said, that at Alt, we cater to every single audience except kids. So anybody and everybody over 18 plus, and that's where our app suitably advertises across the platform and even on our social media handles. 18 plus is our consumer. Since we have horror, drama, comedy, thriller, you name it, the genre that we have it, right? We're a global app, right? So anybody, whether it's Bharat, like I call India beyond metros. So there is a India and there is a India beyond metros. So we have content for India, which is, things like Test Case, Bose, Kehne Ko Hum Safar Hai, Verdict, Mom. These are the shows that Indian in a metro will see. And then there's a lower strata of society in metros, which I compare to Bharat, which is India outside metros, which sort of looks at our other shows, like, for example, Virgin Bhaskar, Cold Lassi, who are interested in that. So, like I said, for ALTBalaji, any customer who's 18 plus, male or female, across the globe is our consumer.
Excellent. So I am picking up two insights from this, where you have two separate tracks. One is, of course, the shows that are made for Metro India, and the other one, where you very aptly said, is Bharat, which is probably tier 2, tier 3 towns and cities. And so there are two very clear segments that you have probably identified, and your content is created on the basis of that. We'll get more into that later, but thank you so much for that insight. Excellent. Yep. So the next thought that has come into my mind, I was reading a little bit about the OTT industry in general, and there's this BCG CII joint report which said that average video consumption has doubled in the last 2 years. It used to be somewhere around 11 minutes per day, and it's up to 24 minutes per day. So I think that's great news for all. But on the other hand, competition is also ramped up, and there's Netflix, there's Prime Video, there's Hotstar, there's Z5, there's Eros now, probably a couple more on the horizon. And with so many OTT players plying their trade right now, doing their thing, where does ALTBalaji lie? If I had to plot a chart, or probably if I had to say that this is Alt's niche, where do you think that is?
Conversation by first understanding. ALTBalaji typically stands for original content.
Mm-hmm.
We, unlike Hotstar,
Mm-hmm.
or C5, or a Boot, or a Prime Video, are not dependent on movies or catch-up content. We create original content for the app.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that original content can be movies or can be web shows. It can be either. So first, let's understand what is. So ALTBalaji is basically, I would say, one of the largest owners of Hindi originals. That's a very clear positioning. Are we going to work on languages? Yes, of course, we'll work on languages going further. Right now, Hindi originals is the space we dominate. Right. So that's Altfield. And that's the position we have carved for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that is why we have more consumers who are on a repeat purchase or repeat subscription mode with us. So that's one. I would say, I mean, it's a better news for all, not only OTT platforms. I would say it's a better news also probably for the gaming sites, the music app sites, etc. Right?
Absolutely.
But more than that, I think what we have to do, track the market, is that with data, I would love to see that. As a team, they're already tracking that change. Mm-hmm. We'll come to know.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for helping us understand the positioning. And I think it's really fascinating that Alt is going in the direction of creating these Hindi originals. I mean, most of us are used to going to a Netflix or a Prime Video. And in fact, Prime and Netflix have also started going that way. And it's great to know that Alt has a big head start over them. So that's fantastic to know. Now, one question that I have been very much interested to understand is the typical journey of a new user. Now, this question would be very interesting for anybody who is probably at the helm of another OTT platform, who's trying to probably grow an OTT platform. Now, do help us understand the typical journey of a new user, right from the very first impression, which is probably anywhere. Maybe he sees a hoarding somewhere, or he sees an ad somewhere. What happens after that? How do you guys basically acquire that user?
So you want me to make life easier for my competition?
Not, you don't have to share any tactical details, but yeah, maybe if you could give us an overview, definitely. I'm sure your competition would be listening to this.
I'll touch upon this very briefly.
Sure.
So typically, there are two ways to acquire a consumer in a digital or a OTT space, right? One is organic, which is your consumer may have seen your hoarding, may have seen your TV ad, may have seen a radio ad, or a digital impression anywhere, or in a cafe or somewhere, or just word of the mouth, and sure, come and download it. That's the organic route. Mm-hmm. The inorganic route, which is performance digital marketing related, which is a separate team within us, which reports to me, mm-hmm, where you're working with a target month on month on a certain cost to acquire a customer.
Sure.
What makes our life difficult, I think, and when I say our, it's not just ALTBalaji, it's all the OTT platforms, and if anybody doesn't agree with this, is obviously lying, is the high rate of churn that you have to constantly address, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
There's no loyalty in this business. When I was in broadcast earlier, there was no loyalty in broadcast also. People are not going to come and watch you because you're a Sony or you're a Z or you're an ALTBalaji. Yep. People are going to come and watch you because of the product or the content that you have available on the platform. Now that content goes to another platform, people will shift with it, right? Exactly. So there is a certain churn that you're always fighting. And along with the churn fight, you're also working on acquiring consumers constantly to increase your base size, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how you create value for the app. Mm-hmm. Content and subscriber base is the real value for the app. So in this journey, like I explained to you, there are two ways to acquire a consumer. Typically for us as a SVOD platform, journey starts from a consumer seeing, like I said, a particular impression across any platform, downloading the app, opening it up, looking at a video, saying, okay, the video is great, the content's great, I would like to see more, subscribing, the money reaching the bank, and the subscriber then watching at least 2 to 3 shows in a certain period of time that we benchmark internally. Right. And then our journey starts with the consumer to engage more and more, so that hopefully that consumer will again renew. Right? Because then at least you're working on bringing down your customer acquisition cost. Typically, that's how we work on from new journey to re-engagement to reacquisition. Let me call it that.
Excellent, excellent. I especially like the reacquisition bit. I'll get into that soon in more detail. So one thing that I am probably trying to remember is I remember watching a couple of shows on ALTBalaji back when it was really new. I think Boss was a huge hit at that time. It was big hit. And if I'm not wrong, ALTBalaji had a freemium model where you could probably watch a couple of episodes for free, and after a certain point there was a paywall which said that to go beyond or to watch more you basically have to pay. And so, but things have changed now, right? I mean, it's basically pay to play entirely.
So I'll just set a brief context for this. At the point of time when we launched, we were new. We had very less space, right? And there were just 6 shows. So it made sense for us to actually not only make a certain set of episodes free, but also to put them on YouTube to attract the crowd. So you put a certain set of episodes, you open up your own YouTube channel, you put a certain set of episodes free over there, and then you direct traffic from YouTube onto your app saying, acha, you know, you have seen, and we used to do almost 5 episodes free.
Right.
Your show. So you will say, okay, watch 5 episodes here. Now the consumer is probably engaged in this. And if you're an engaged consumer, you will obviously subscribe to my app to see the rest of the show. Nobody likes to leave their shows in middle. I wouldn't. And I'm an avid watcher, right?
Absolutely.
So that's one thing. We have changed. Yes, we have changed. So we have withdrawn now that the base has grown humongously.
Yep.
Last year we took a call and we withdrew all our episodes, all our content from every platform, and we put the free episode available only on our platform. So currently on our platform, you get 1 episode free, and then to watch the show, you have to subscribe.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The other journey is that there are certain shows that we keep completely behind the paywall. The shows that we believe that either there is a loyal franchise. So, for example, there is a Kehne Ko Hum Safar Hai 1, which was a super hit. And then season 2, season 3, it doesn't make any sense for us to give even a single episode free. We would rather play on the franchise and keep it absolutely behind the paywall. Or for a highly sensual show, which we believe that, you know, should not be open to the public.
Sure.
For example, a Gandhi Baat will go behind the paywall completely, because then you're consenting to be 18 years old even to watch the episode.
Right. Which is a technical legality. And of course, the nature of the show itself.
Technical legality. See, technical legality is one part. As an app, we are also conscious about the fact that this has to be a consumer choice, right? We are not going to force this on anybody. So anybody who buy Gandhi Baat, I'm saying this is what the consumer chooses to see.
Yep.
We're not to tell you what to do, but we are here to ensure that you're within the legal limits and you're giving your consent to watch this as an adult.
Excellent. Excellent. So making a conscious choice, of course, for shows that are slightly sensual or probably a little sensitive, of course, that makes a lot of sense.
We're very, very sensitive about such issues.
Brilliant, brilliant. So Divya, I'd love to ask a little bit about successful channels of engagement that you have experienced right now. And it's no surprise, being from WebEngage, we will obviously get into channels at some point of time. So is there a standout channel right now for you that has been really, really amazing with respect to engagement or conversions or whatever metrics that you are basically tracking right now? Can be anything, maybe a push notification, maybe an email.
So again, touching very briefly upon this, for us, organic growth is pretty high, right? This is also because of the fact that the way we market our shows, the way we push our shows, we also do a fair amount of disruptive marketing. We don't believe in the regular routine of putting out a TV ad, putting out holdings, doing radio spot and just burning money. We don't believe in that. We say that with every show, you have to do innovative marketing, guerrilla marketing, and break the mold with it and do with the next show. So the marketing team that reports to me, their job is pretty difficult. The other aspect is that the channels that work really well for us is, I would say, first of all, digital is very, very important for us, right? it's a ROI which is immediately measurable. It's an instant call to action.
Sure.
So for us, Google, social,
Mm-hmm.
of course, from an engagement point of view, web engage journeys and push notifications work beautifully well.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thank you for that shout out. Brilliant, brilliant. So I want to go a little bit deeper into this, of course, if you'd like to answer that. You mentioned about reacquisition. So from what I'm imagining, probably a guy signs up for a particular show, which he's really interested in, and he finishes that show, binge watches it in a week. That's about it. He leaves after that. Now, is there any way that you guys try to reacquire that user using certain messages, probably using the app itself, considering he still has the app installed on his phone? Is there any kind of campaign that you guys run on your side to basically make him know that there is something else that might interest him and he should probably get back into art?
So I think you guys should know this better than us, that we are constantly working with Web Engage on multiple engagement cycles, right? Where we work on consumer segments, we understand from the data that you give us is what are the cross sections. So for example, if a guy is seeing Apharan, is he also seeing, let's say, a Kehne Ko Hum Safar Hai? And what is the quality of the shows that we need to expose to him? So for example, if somebody is seeing a Virgin Bhaskar, is he game to see also an Apharan? So those are the kind of cross.
Very different genres.
Absolutely. Those are the cross sections of the genres that we are doing, constantly working with the Web Engage team that services our account. And then we are setting up multiple engagement cycles, showing him new content, exposing him to new content, in which case we use our interstitials, we use our push notifications, we use deep links, we use email marketing, SMS marketing, our business for WhatsApp. So all those channels are utilized to engage with the consumer and show him cross sections of the content genres to engage him more and more.
Amazing, amazing. If I'm not wrong, Spotify does something very similar as well, more on the lines of personalization. But yeah, I hope this turns out well for you, and maybe the next episode that we do with you, probably you will have better results.
Super, super.
So yeah, getting into user behavior a little bit now, Divya. So you've helped us understand the 30 million odd users that you have on your platform right now. You said that they can be anywhere, anybody who's above 18 years of age, male or female. Now, considering that there are such vast audiences on your platform, is there any kind of content preference that stands out? And is there any kind of content that performs the best?
Yeah, sure. So for us, and we have said this multiple times in media as well, the space that we truly want to focus on is the family and the romance dramas and male-oriented thrillers. They have worked extremely well for us. Is that going to be a priority for us? Yes. Also with the fact that smart TVs have almost become 55% of the television sales in this country, we as a platform are also working towards inclusive viewing. So for example, today I have 3 TVs in my household, out of which 2 are smart TVs connected to fiber, right? And we as a family sit in the evening and try and grab half an hour of TV together, chit chat about the shows, etc. I have a feeling that inclusive viewing in India is going to go up. Not only India, I mean globally also it's happening. But then of course, men and women will also have their moments with the mobile viewing. That is anyway going to go ahead. Like I said, want to watch the trend of what happens now with 40% mobile data charges going up across Airtel, Vodafone and Jio, which largely covers almost the 90% cover of the country.
Sure.
Wi-Fi is still a very metro-related phenomena, you know. And for our base also, it's only 30%. So it's actually a mobile data economy in this country.
Right. And will continue to be so.
Yes, at least for another 2 years till, you know, fiber comes in its own play. And probably that's why Jio has not announced any such fiber upping charges till now, right? Because they are also trying to do their base currently. But for us, romance and drama basis, what we've discussed are going to be romance, drama and thriller are going to be priorities.
Excellent. Now, just out of curiosity, I mean, we had a quick chat about this during our briefing call as well. Alt probably is one of the, I'm not sure about the others, unfortunately, but Alt is one of the primary OTT players right now that is of course making its own content, that is going forward with a lot of these bold shows about that is exploring factors like sexuality and a lot of sensual content, which is very Indianized also at the end of the day. So it is of course custom made for the Indian audience. It's not there to basically please somebody who's sitting in a metro probably, or I don't know what the thought process is. What's the thought process behind that?
Are you talking about Divya?
Yeah, shows like Gandhi Bath, and there are several other shows as well which I'm not aware of, but
Other shows.
I'll have to check. But that's the thing. I mean, I wouldn't have expected a.
Let me answer your question. Okay.
Sure.
First of all, making sexual shows is an art in itself. Otherwise, YouTube is full of porn. People don't need to subscribe to us to see that. Whatever that we do, we make it very well. We are very, very conscious of the content that we put out on our app. That's part one. Okay. Part two, currently we have only 2 sensual shows, which is Gandiba, which is meant for the mass India, and we have Triple X, which is slightly more sassy, slightly more metro. Okay. These are the 2 sensual category shows we have. If you talk about sensual scenes as part of the story, honestly, Sacred Games.
Sure.
And other shows that I can name, but I will not, but have their dose of it, right? And frontal nudity. We as an app have never shown frontal nudity. So there are other platforms who even show frontal nudity as part of the story, right?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it's a very, very candid call where we say we are not model policing. We are giving a range of content for the consumers to see, because that's the beauty of the digital, right? It's a conscious call that the consumer is making to see or not to see those shows. And they're working well for us in terms of, because they're behind the paywall, the consumer is doing the 18+ content, the consumer is saying that I want to see it, nobody's forcing them. We are also working on romance, drama, thrillers, and and we just have these 2 shows, so I'm quite surprised you're seeing many such shows. I would love to hear which many such shows.
I might be misinformed. Unfortunately, I haven't really checked the content library. But
Not a problem. We have about 50 shows currently, out of which 2 are in the sensual category and the rest are all in the category that we just discussed.
Excellent, excellent. So the point that I was trying to basically excavate was there must have been some sort of a thought process, which is basically linked to my next question, which is talking about the content library. There must be certain data points, certain thought processes, certain creative inputs that must be going into the planning for, let's say, a certain quarter or a year, whatever cycle you guys must be following for content creation. Now, there must have been a conscious call taken at some point in time, like you mentioned very rightly, that family viewing or family content consumption on these connected televisions is going to be a big win for OTT players. So probably making content that is perfect for family viewing, or probably making mobile only content for male specific or female specific audiences is going to be. Is there certain thought processes that are being followed at Alt as well to create a content library for, let's say, the next year, for 2020 or a quarter? Or
but we just spoke about this, where I said romance, drama, thrillers is what we are going to focus on for the coming year.
Right.
But that will not stop us from creating mobile only shows for the male segment per se.
Excellent. So that we have covered a couple of questions about content now. Yeah, I wanted to find out if there are any specific metrics that you guys are measuring right now to help you understand the performance of a particular piece of content. Is there anything specific? Let's say, of course, views must be the biggest one. Is there anything else that you guys probably measure right now?
Are you talking about the performance of a particular show?
Yeah.
For us, it's not as simple as views. Like I told you, my marketing team's life is very tough. So not only is it views, but it is views and what was the ROI on the money spent, which we typically measure with the triggered sums.
Okay.
Marketing individual has its own KRA for triggering a fair amount of subs on the show, and they're tracked on a daily basis.
Excellent. So are there like subcategories for all of your marquee shows, a couple of which you had named earlier? is there any kind of a special campaign going on in the background which you probably are triggering to increase subs primarily for that piece of content, or it's basically for the entire alt ecosystem?
Yeah, so see, any digital platform worth its salt knows that your library campaign has to be on all time, right? 365 days a year, you have to run your library campaign. You can't just live on new show launches. First of all, they're expensive. Second of all, to create profit out of them takes a lifetime, right? So you have to constantly run your library. Library on is always on.
Mm-hmm.
That's one piece of digital performance marketing that will always run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Shows will come and go. Some will be hits, some will be flops.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. So another question about brand positioning. You had mentioned a couple of very good points during our briefing call as well. Looking at the other players right now, if I look at Netflix and Prime Video and probably Hotstar as well, they have a lot of, I would say, I won't say massy content, but probably international content is a better word for it. But alt is not going that way. Alt is purely focused on Indian content, Indianized content, Indian original shows, like you mentioned already. So is this going to continue being the dominant positioning strategy for alt in the next couple of years, or are we looking to probably have international shows or international tie-ups or something like that as well?
Even if we, so 2-3 things, even if we agree to do something which is international in nature and we are talking to them, we will first of all take the format, Indianize it and launch it in an Indian format. Because we believe that the market in India, the next, 1 billion people are actually going to come from the smaller towns. Why would I even like to look at launching international formats in the international way for the Indian? And actually, you know that, right? That there are a lot of people in this country who do not subscribe to Netflix because they say, "Humko samajh nahi aata udhar kya dekhe." They actually get intimidated by Netflix, and Netflix is very much aware of it. So, like I keep telling everybody who speaks to me, there is India beyond Bombay, Delhi, and Bangalore.
Mm-hmm.
Please look at that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the growth is going to come from. That's where your video consumption is going to come from, because people are tired of the tyranny of the broadcast. People are tired of seeing concept. People don't want to see it. And Indian males for sure are tired.
Sure.
Right? So obviously it's a very explosive subject internally.
Yeah.
But I still like to push it because I think our creative team and Ekta understand that the digital audience is very different. You're trying to break the tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
So in that scenario, I really want to create content that is massy. Our content has to be massified. Our content has to be easily understood. And our content needs to have that unique storytelling and flavor, which will go down with the masses,
right,
but also have what is not available on television.
Excellent.
And why would I want to alienate them by giving them international shows which they are anyway not interested in seeing, because half of them don't understand what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So Netflix has a category that they play up to, which is 5% of India. We have a category which we play up to, which is 95%.
95%.
And we would like to stay in that category.
Amazing. I think the best point, the best insight for me was that people are actually intimidated after they go to Netflix and they don't find anything that they want.
I have a tough time when I go through Netflix at home, saying husband and I and daughter are sitting and, swarming through it and saying, okay, what should we see which appeals to us?
Yeah.
Half an hour sometimes is just spent going through the choices you have. Absolutely. Right? And we are considered to be a Metro A+ audience.
So the next question incidentally happened to be about geography, and you mentioned.
I think we've already spoken about it, right?
Yeah. So just wanted to check if there is any kind of impact that regional language content is going to make. It's a multi-tiered question, but basically wanted to understand if geography plays a role in the popularity of certain content being more, successful in, let's say, UP or probably something else which is more successful in the south of India. Have you seen that happen right now at all?
Of course. So I come from Z5. I launched Z5 as a brand. Prior to that, I was handling, there are other 2 digital brands. See, remember this, that India is now emerging as a powerhouse with people very proud of their language, right? There is no stigma any longer attached to the fact, "Arey, tere ko Angrezi nahi samajh aata."
Mm-hmm.
No longer like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are proud of their language and they like to see content in their language. So when I launched Z5, my initial pitch, which was carried out by management, was, "Apni bhasha mein feel hai yaar." Because what do you do when you're angry or you're happy? Those moments you talk in your language and you don't talk in English. आप अपनी भाषा में बात करते हो, right? Since content is such an emotional subject, you would like to see content in your language. And down south, specifically Malayalam and the Tamil belt, they're very, very particular about watching content in their language. The content needs to be made in their language and not just dubbed in their language. If you have a library which is led by content made in their language and addending to the library which is dubbed, they're still open to the idea, right? So I believe regional language content is going to play a fairly large role in the content consumption piece. Is all going to go down that path? Yes, we haven't really aggressively positioned it. Is Hindi regional language? Yes, Hindi is also very much a regional language, considering that we still suffer from the British and English mentality of saying English is the language. No, not really. Hindi is the language. And that's 70% of the market. I think we have dominated Hindi. Now we will eventually move into the regional space as well, because that's where we see the growth coming from.
Amazing. I totally second that thought. I've studied in Bangalore myself for 3 years, and I've seen that they're really big on their industry, and
correct.
Movies are really huge.
We cannot dub our languages in Kannada. You know that, right? We cannot dub our shows in Kannada. When I was in Z5, we learned it the hard way, because the entire industry of Karnataka is against it. They will not allow shows to be dubbed. They want the shows to be made. That's also a boost to the local industry.
Wow. Amazing, amazing. Getting to learn so much, Divya. Yep, the next few questions are going to be about engagement and retention. Now, this is going to be about basically understanding what happens once the individual is on the web app or the mobile app. Now, the biggest problem right now, I'm not sure who exactly said this, but people are saying that all of these OTT channels, the big players, Netflix, and likes, the biggest competition is basically sleep for them. Everybody.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
So the biggest competition for all of these OTT players right now is sleep. They're all competing with an individual's sleeping time, because that's when probably they're catching up on these shows.
See, people who say that, I think very pretentious, honestly. Because if we are creating a country of sleep deprived people, that's not a great thing to
Absolutely.
About. But yes, you tell me, what are you saying?
Sure. So my point was creating a sticky platform. What are the steps that are basically in place right now with respect to engagement that ensures that the individual sticks around and spends more time on, let's say, the ALTBalaji app? Is there anything specific that you would like to highlight?
Like we've discussed this earlier, right? That currently we're using WebEngage as a technology and as a tool to engage with the consumer on a daily basis. And of course, the email marketing, the SMS marketing, WhatsApp marketing are those. And those are the ones that we typically use to inform our average consumer about the latest updates. Of course, your own app, we currently have 3 million daily active users on our app, right? That itself is such a big tool to inform the consumer about something that they're doing. Also, of late, we have started experimenting with pre-rolls on our first episode. So typically people don't pay for our first episode, right? And with this kind of footfall on our app, first episode is acting like my advertising platform, where we run pre-rolls about either the news show or about my library content, which again is segmented basis the content preference. So we will probably, carve out for romance news shows or romance library, only targeting those consumers who like to watch romance shows. So the pre-roll will go up only on those episodes. So those are the kinds of engagement channel that we are constantly working with, experimenting, opening up. Is there a formula to it? Not really, because you're constantly experimenting and measuring and seeing the returns from every channel. So some months you may go super aggressive on WhatsApp and in-app marketing. Some months you may go very, very aggressive on web engagement journeys and push notifications. Some months you may go very, very aggressive on SMS marketing and outbound calls. So it really depends on what is giving you the best returns at that given point of time. You have to be fluid in digital marketing. And you have to measure it every day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. Now, wanted to know a little bit about the retention rate that you are experiencing right now. You already mentioned the massive problem of churn. And when we were talking about acquisition and acquiring new users, and you said, of course, you have to always factor in churn that is always happening constantly. Now, have you been able to, first of all, probably, I won't say solve, but have you been able to limit churn to a certain extent? And if you have, then what kind of retention rates are you experiencing right now at Alt? And have you seen an upward trend?
I will not discuss the percentages here. Are we able to arrest? You cannot arrest churn. Okay. There are platforms I know who run their AWOD and SWOD business on cricket, who experience 100% churn after a particular cricket season is over.
Wow.
So anybody who says, oh, we have arrested churn is lying. You cannot arrest churn. Churn has to be a constant way of living. The only thing which my team works towards and I work towards is how do you minimize churn?
Yep.
How do you ensure that you keep an engaged customer? Now that engaged customer is not only through the channels you use, that engaged customer is also through the experience you're giving to the consumer.
Absolutely.
Now, if through a subscription only the consumer is facing so much issue, why would that consumer ever come back again to you? Mm-hmm. Because he knows that the journey after this subscription journey is going to become a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
Right from subscription point of view to how he interfaces with the app, how easily can he access your content, how easily will the push notification help him discover other content, how metadata is, to how he is getting his queries answered to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everything, and the UI and the UX, everything adds up to the consumer experience. And if the consumer is happy with that, then that is an engaged consumer and you can bank upon that consumer not to churn out.
Yep.
So you cannot stop churn. You cannot, right? For every 10 happy ones, there'll always be 3 unhappy ones. You have to constantly work on making the unhappy ones happy so that they retain. So it's a constant acquisition churn, and retention exercise.
Mm-hmm. So which brings me to my next question, Divya, in connection to what you just said. Do you think personalization in any form of messaging or communication with your user actually helps to influence the decision in that particular moment to keep him on the platform?
So we've tried personalization, okay? Mm-hmm. Have I seen a 200% growth because of personalization of message? Not really. Have I seen a slight improvement? Yes. Is that something we are going to try as a tactic? For sure. Everything and anything that it needs to, it takes to keep a consumer, retain a consumer, make a consumer happy.
Absolutely.
Is personalization the manna from the heaven to make retention and avoid churn? No, not really. So it's an overhyped thing, honestly.
Excellent. I remember the chat that we had during our briefing call where I mentioned whether there is any kind of content personalization happening, and you made an amazing point. You said, apart from Netflix, everybody who says they're doing personalization, they're lying. And that was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. So let me answer your question. Let me put it the other way. When you're doing the personalization of the content also, it can be both ways, right? One could be the marketing update personalization or engagement personalization. The other could be pure content personalization. Absolutely. And that also is not content personalization. It is when a content platform is saying, hey, I will do interactive episodes for you, right?
Which so Netflix has started doing now.
Choice, yes, no, slap, sleep, blah, blah, blah. Do you know that the cost of the content at that point of time becomes almost 2.5% or 2.5 times more than what it is? And how many platforms can actually afford it? So I would love to say personalization, but it will give you a slight improvement. Is it on a content front? It's definitely not worth the cost. On a marketing and engagement front, we are constantly working on it.
Excellent. So one more question that I had about collaborating with other platforms, and incidentally, Alt has recently collaborated with Z5. Now, is this primarily to solve the problem of newer content that needs to be created, or do you see any other mutual synergies that's also coming out of this?
No, so I think the synergies over there are very clear. I think Z5 has really liked the quality of our content, and that is the reason why they have come to us. The second reason is obviously the fact that there was a time in broadcast there were 15 GC channels, right? Uh, it boiled down to ultimately 5 GC channels, and all this boiling down happened within 2 to 3 years. I think with 36 plus OTT platforms in this country, synergies have to happen. So people will collaborate, some will get taken over. I think with ALTBalaji and Z5, the understanding is very clear. They like our content, so they want to collaborate. We like the fact that our content is going purely behind the paid platform, because Z5 also is putting our content up on their premium platform, which is purely paid. Our marketing and discovery strengths together and work on making the content piece more visible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how Synergies are currently. So we work as equal partners on bringing a show together to a engaged consumer.
Awesome. Now, brings us to the fag end of the podcast, and I really want to talk about questions related to growth. I would love to ask the next 5-year, next 10-year question, but knowing how fast this industry changes, what do you think is going to be the next big growth avenue for OTT in the next couple of years?
So I'll say a few words. See, content as is happening, it's exploding. I think this industry is seeing a fair amount of shows getting launched, to the extent that when I meet my peers in broadcast, they say, you know what, TV's gone thanda. And the next few areas of growth that I see is VR technology. So at Ragini MMS, you will very soon hear an announcement. We'll be the first OTT platform to launch a VR full film.
Wow.
Virtual. We'll be the first OTT platform. We'll very soon announce that. So that is an area of growth I see, virtual reality, because as Indian consumer matures, so there is going to be certain, like I say, that I like to treat as Metro and Bharat. While Metro will move towards more sophistication, raising the bar of treatments that they want, they deserve as an experience, which is where virtual reality will play a role. Bharat will, still come to the fact that, okay, am I getting a buffer-free experience? Am I getting good content? Is it at a cheap cost, cheap prices, etc.? So there are going to be two parallel tracks playing in terms of growth. The other area of growth that I see is gamification. As more and more youth in this country get addicted and attracted to OTT platform, they will also look at various ways in which they can experience the content. So gamification going to be another avenue of growth. Now, this gamification again can be two different types, where I can, for example, go and tie up, put it up around the show, and you interact with the youth, vibe that. The other growth area, like I said earlier also in my discussion with you, is the regional content. I see the new 1 billion people on the internet coming, asking for content in their language. That language need not just be Indian language, it can be any language. Since we are a global app, for us, a lot of people come from Middle East, South Asia. We also have Malaysia, we have Indonesia, we have US, we have UK, we have Canada. So we see a lot of growth in regional content as well. So we get a lot of app store comments with people saying, can I get this show dubbed in Malaysian language? Can I get this show in Arabic? So requirement of the show dubbed in their language and not just with subtitles. Right. Even if I was to not create a show in their language. So regional language is going to be a growth factor.
Right. So probably going out on a limb here, just following up with what you said. You said creating a brand of loyal customers or loyal users is probably next to impossible in broadcasting. But do you think that can change with tech implements like VR specific episodes that are blowing minds of people in metros and regional content that are really impressing people, probably sitting in a small town somewhere in Tamil Nadu, and probably creating an app which is a lighter version which works with 2G, 3G, poor internet connections? Maybe this kind of an experience, will it help a brand like Alt create a breed of loyal consumers and actually change that status quo?
I really can't comment on this. Right? Digital as a business is evolving. I can look at growth trends. Is that going to create a breed of loyal consumers? I can't say it because you know what? Honestly, what stops any other platform from doing what I'm doing?
The same thing, yeah.
What stops? So unless you have unique stories that people get addicted to, and you can create franchises out of them, right? And those franchises stay exclusively on your platform. And then you create gamification, virtual reality.
On top of that, yeah.
That is when you will get a breed of loyal consumers. So I'll give you an example. I was watching a show called Madam Secretary on Netflix. I was hooked onto that show. 3 seasons were on Netflix, 4th and 5th were on Amazon. Even in a heartbeat, I skipped to Amazon.
Absolutely. That's pretty strange, but yeah, I guess some licensing issues. I absolutely agree with you. I think I know people who basically just sign on to Netflix to watch Sacred Games, and that's about it.
Absolutely. So, like I said, it has to be unique franchises that you create, and then you create various engagement and content and virtual reality and gamification, etc., around it to keep the consumer engaged. Is that consumer going to be forever loyal to you? I really can't comment on that. The other thing which I really want to try out is a loyalty and rewards program, which nobody in the OTT sector has done till now. Let's see what it can give us.
Impressive, really impressive. Well, that brings us to the close of the serious bit of the podcast questions. Thank you so much for your candidness and all of the insights that you have shared, Divya. I really enjoyed this conversation. Now, the last 5 minutes, I'm going to have this quick, fun kind of a segment, which is basically rapid fire. It's nothing related to work, just normal questions that we want to ask to kind of understand what Divya Dikshit is about.
I can trust myself with rapid fire.
That's the whole point. That's why we did not give you those questions before, and we've just come up with them. So my colleague Ashna has come up with a very unique set of questions. The first one is, if you could change one thing about the digital entertainment industry right now, what would it be?
All the people who are criticizing the fact that all does sensual, I would love to ask them then how the digital medium. Yes.
Exactly. Excellent answer. Okay, so is there a top business book or top book that you're reading right now that you would love to recommend to everybody else?
I don't like business books and Prem, are you there?
Yes, I lost you for a bit over
there.
there. I'm here now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Tell me.
Yeah, I lost you for a bit. So I think you were mentioning that you don't really enjoy reading those business and self-help books, right?
No, I don't. I normally work on my common sense. That's it. I actually find them a waste of time.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of haters, but yeah, I'm a big fiction fan myself.
Which is why I said, please don't ask me such questions. I have no filters.
All right. So one app or website that you heavily rely on, you can't do without right now? Google. Excellent. So if you had a choice between 2 superpowers, being invisible or flying, which one would you choose?
Invisible.
Excellent. We are matching up on a lot of these. Awesome. So one advice that you would like to give to aspiring marketers right now?
Who would you call an aspiring marketer? First, define that for me, please.
Somebody who probably wants to build a brand that is known and loved by, let's say, millions and billions.
Okay. I just have one very quick advice. This is one quality that I have and I have a team of young people, right? Young people need to work, of course, smart, but need to work hard as well. I think this question I've been asked earlier also in another interview that I gave. And I said, the only thing that I would like to advise people is that you have to remember to go into detailing. If you don't detail, if the project that you're heading, you're not into detailing, you're not on top of it, you don't know every minute what's happening, don't blame others for it being unsuccessful. It's in your hands. Get it detailing, work hard, work smart. It has to be both ways. That's my only piece of advice. Rest is all common sense, honestly.
God is in the details.
Absolutely. I believe in that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that brings us to the close of this podcast episode. Thank you so much, Divya. It was lovely having you, and we'll hopefully have you back for another episode, probably a webinar also if you have the time. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really grateful. Take
Our
care.
pleasure. Thanks a lot, Divya. We'll let you know when the episode is done. We'll share the links with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes. Bye, Divya. Take care.
Bye.